again, Sandwich. I'm Greg Anderson. Welcome back into our Sandwich Community Television studio. And we're going to talk schools today. We're going to talk to school committee because here on Meet the Candidates, we want to bring as many opinions and perspectives of the candidates that you are going to see on your ballot when you show up. Hopefully you will on May 4th. Today we're going to talk to Tracy Goodwin. Tracy, welcome.
Thank you very much.
You are running for the 3-year seat.
Yes.
It's you and Sue Miller.
Yes.
That are running. It's not a contested race.
Right.
Tell me what is bringing you to sit here with me and try to get that seat.
Okay. So running for school committee is something that I've wanted to do for a very long time. A really long time.
Yeah.
But maybe 10 years going back.
Wow.
Yeah, that's something I always thought of. My background in education is something that I'm passionate about, and so was always a natural draw to me to just think about schools and what's happening in school systems. Yeah. And when my children were in the schools, it made me want to be involved in different ways. And I never felt like I had the time to pursue school committee. It just felt like it was bigger than what I was able to have in my life, and now it's not. Now it feels like a really good time for me to be able to give back and to put in the time that I would want to be able to put into being a school committee member.
How old are your kids?
I have a son who's almost 23.
Okay. What's his name?
His name's Peyton.
Peyton?
Yep.
Love his name.
Yes. And my daughter, Anna, is 20.
Anna is 20. So
yes,
you and your kids went through the the school system here in Sandwich.
Yeah, and my husband.
And your husband.
And my husband.
Gosh, it's a full family affair. So I was asking somebody else about this. What is it like? I don't know, but what is it like to be a student in a school system? You graduate, you take off, and then you come back, and you then put kids through the system. What is that two worlds colliding look like to you?
That's a really good question. So one aspect of it, which was so much fun, is my children having teachers that I had that my husband had, and also having, just people that were so impactful in my life because I did leave Sandwich High School and went on and was a teacher for a number of years. And it was Donald Frank who really mentored me, and he was a history teacher at the high school. And my son was able to have him as a teacher. And that was just an awesome, full circle kind of experience.
Yeah.
I think it also brings in, and this is partially running for school committee, is thinking about what was my experience like. What were my children's experience like? Where are we at today? And what kind of positive movement have I seen over time? And also how can I contribute and give back through kind of connecting the dots along the way?
So let's unpack the giving back.
Okay.
And by the way, that rhymes. That's like an educational thing.
That's a good one.
It rhymes.
That
Don't ask
is.
me to say it again because I've already forgotten it. But when you are looking at giving back, and that's a wonderful thing. You're a busy mom, I'm sure, have always been, and now you've got a little bit more wiggle room to give back. Tell me where are you leaning in on your areas of focus, maybe areas of concern, if you were to become a member of the school committee?
Yeah, so I'm really concerned with students leaving the district.
Yeah.
That's a big concern because there's a lot of wonderful things happening. I have friends that are teachers in the district, and I've always felt, teachers work so hard and do such an incredible job that I want students to stay. I want our community to grow and move in a direction of people wanting to be here because of our schools.
Yeah.
So that's a big piece of it. That's important to me. Yeah. Also, I feel really strongly students' voices are really important, and that our students are the ones that are in the schools every day. and their voice is really important, and to get their perspective on, how are things going in our schools, and what sort of things are they loving, what sort of things maybe make them uncomfortable, what would they like to see happen in our schools.
Yeah. The enrollment piece, it makes, as you were talking, I was thinking, geez, if I were a teacher, and maybe you know this, you have friends that are teachers in the school district. If I were a teacher and I'm watching enrollment drop, that must be a tough picture, because you're trying to empower and inspire and teach and give, and that kid sitting in the front row is now gone to Sturgis next year.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about that. Do you hear that? Is that a teacher perspective in your opinion?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
I don't know if I hear that or
Okay.
haven't yet.
Yeah.
But I do think it has to be really hard,
Yeah.
because as a teacher, you're working hard and you're doing everything that you can.
Right.
Which is why I think it's really important to hear teacher perspectives and hear, how can we help you? How
Right.
can we support you?
Yeah.
Are there areas that you're feeling like you would be able to do your job in a different way?
Where were you a teacher?
So I was a teacher in Hull for a year
Okay.
in an alternative ed program. And then I was in Mansfield, teaching high
Little
school.
Hull to Mansfield.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I went from teaching to co-owning a small business here on the Cape. But in between that time, I also did some work at Cape Cod Academy as a learning specialist.
Oh, wow.
Because I missed being in a school environment.
Yeah. That is it's like healthcare. It's like you don't do it because you want to be a millionaire. You do it because you care. You do it because there's something that you want to give back to. Tell me a little bit more about giving voice to students. Two questions come to mind. One, what does that mean in your opinion? And two, where are we lacking in student voice?
Okay. So I'll back up for a brief second.
Please do. Yeah.
So when I first started teaching, my favorite part of teaching was just chatting with students about, what their thoughts and views were, and what sort of things do you feel passionate about, and how is school for you? And that was my favorite part, in helping them work through different challenges. So I coordinated school mediation programs. I'm trained as an ADL World of Difference facilitator, which is all about helping students be agents of change. And then in my business on the Cape, it's called Navigating ADHD. I work with students every day who fill me in on sometimes not feeling like they're heard, or that they're a little lost on what sort of skills they need to do better, or feeling misjudged, or
Which can impact their learning.
Yes, it all filters back
Yeah.
to that part.
Yeah.
It all comes back.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Let me switch gears. Let me ask a little bit about the superintendent.
Okay.
We have a brand new one, Dr. Joe Maruschek. Have you heard of a little TV show called Ask the Soup?
Yes, I actually had watched the last one that you did, and it was really fun.
Excellent.
It was fun.
By the way, if you haven't seen that, please get with it, people. This is that opportunity, and I think that the superintendent was really interested in saying, let's have a discussion. We do it once a month, and we take questions from people to an email, which is askoursuperintendent@gmail.com. But I'm glad that you watched that. Tell me a little bit about how is Dr. Maruschek doing in your mind?
So I think he's doing a great job of what he said he was going to spend time doing, which is observing and listening and gathering information. And I think he's been doing that from people that I've been talking to, that he's in buildings, he's checking things out, he's at all sorts of events in the community, all different age groups, and that he's learning as much as he can, and is now taking that information, and from what I've seen so far, is starting to put that into, okay, here's action steps, and here's where I think we need to be going.
Any critique
on
the new superintendent, on Dr. Joe?
Yeah, I think he's going to and is great for our school system. And I think that his experiences, some being similar to our school community, but also having experiences outside of that, I think bring a fresh perspective, but also a leadership style that can look at the big picture, but also look at the small. Here's what we need to do in different areas. So I feel really good about that.
Okay, so you had mentioned in the material that you had sent to us fiscal responsibility, and clearly on the school committee, man, that's a big budget, and there's a lot of opinion about how our tax dollars are spent, and the school district is the largest spend.
Yeah.
How do you feel the school district is on fiscal responsibility, being accountable for the dollars that we're spending? Do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, I think, as far as I can see and from my perspective and what I know right now, that we've been on track with how money is going to be spent and where it goes. I'm really happy to hear that part of the budget, or the thinking, especially with the buildings and repairs, seems to be shifting more into how can we be more proactive and have things not kind of be at the state that some of our buildings are in right now, so that we can do that along the way and prevent things from being, a complete like emergency kind of situation in the upkeep. And I like that. I think that could make a big difference. I mean, our buildings are, the outward vision of who we are as a community, how children feel in their environments and within buildings, how staff feel and cared for, I think is really important.
Yeah. Let's talk about school safety. You and I have probably sat in our own living rooms watching horror on TV with school shootings, and it's one of those topics that as soon as it comes off of your lips, it's like, ugh, I don't even want to talk about that, but we have to talk about that. Your kids are still in the district or in the schools, or have they already graduated?
No, they're graduated. And
so how safe do you feel from your vantage point the kids in the sandwich schools are today?
So from my vantage point, and I think there's different ways to think about safety. I think that they're safe and we can do a lot more. I think safety, is a few different things. It's one, it's the building, it's the lighting, it's how people leave a building, it's how many places are there to get into a building or out of a building. But I also think it's individual students, what's their level of safety. And I think we're learning more about that in talking with students. And safety, do they feel comfortable speaking their opinion, in a classroom? Do they feel comfortable if there's a bullying situation or they witness something, do they feel comfortable to speak up? And I think that's where the peer leaders are now up at the high school. I think that's over time going to help with that sense of safety. And I think that's another really important piece, because safety can look really different, again, from that outside physicalness of safety to feeling like, who's my person in the school that I go to when I'm feeling uncomfortable or I don't feel safe.
My definition of safe is different than yours versus theirs. I mean, everyone's definition is different. And when you layer in the mental health challenges that kids are facing, and perhaps you see this in your own business, but that mental health challenge, the technology piece, I mean, we could go down a rabbit hole of all the things that these kids are dealing with that you and I never had to deal with.
Nope.
How do you look at technology in the schools? I know we need technology in schools, and kids need to have access to that, but my kids are 24 and 20, and they got their cell phones early. They had an iPhone, an iPad, all of that stuff, and it was just like, I can't go there. But we do need it for education. How do you see that balance of need versus it's kind of hurting our culture here?
Oh, it's such a good question, such a hard one.
You can think about it. Okay, you're done now, right? Yeah.
So we need technology, obviously.
Yeah.
Our students need to know how to use technology, how to be responsible with technology, what's okay with technology, what's not okay with technology. I think for parents, it's nearly impossible to keep up with the changing, the fast pace of technology and what children are seeing or are on. But I know from my experience with seeing students who didn't get a great skill set on how to use technology do face challenges later on, either not being able to manage it, not having good self-boundaries on using technology. And that's really hard when you're not at home anymore or you're in a workplace and no one's checking to see what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it's an important piece. I think, I've met students before who know so much about technology. They are soaring, and in our schools, in the technology department, and the amount of learning that's happening.
Yeah.
So it's a really difficult place that I think we're in.
Yeah.
And I don't think the answer is to do less or back away. I think the answer has to do with education, how we're using technology, and listening to the teachers that are involved and this is their area of expertise on how to use it.
Is there curriculum in the school district to teach kids about technology and how to use it or not?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay.
What exactly that looks like, I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah,
But
I
yes,
don't know.
there are lots of conversations I know happening around technology, and I'm not sure if there's a set curriculum. That's a standard one district-wide.
Yeah, got it. When we look at the pandemic is in our rear view mirror, but I can still see it. And we're still contending with that. In the school realm, in education, there is still a hangover effect that's going to be here for a long time. And I know every superintendent, not just this one, but every superintendent is trying to grapple with how are we testing kids differently to make sure that we're understanding the deficits from the pandemic are being measured against, reality. How do you see this hangover and still having to deal with the learning loss that kids have gone through? As a school committee member, you're not necessarily going to be in the weeds on that, but you are going to be working to keep a school system, I guess, on the ball as it relates to that. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah. So again, I think this is another one that goes back to effective communication and really understanding what teachers are seeing, what sort of learning gaps they are seeing. I know from working with a range of age groups that there are a lot of gaps from social, emotional to academic to organizational. So I think that's part of it, is making sure that we're looking at statistics, we're looking at numbers, we're looking at what kind of changes we see happening, and then we're also looking at what's happening around us. What are other school districts doing? What are their numbers looking like with learning gaps? Are we missing anything that we could be doing?
Yeah.
I'm worried with social emotional kind of learning for our young ones that haven't even gotten into our school system yet. That
How so? When you say you're worried?
I'm worried because they were home and not interacting with other young children during a really critical time of learning social skills and social cues, from play groups to playing with young ones in a neighborhood to having and I'm preschool age or 2-year-olds even that just miss that developmental piece. I think we might see more and more of that showing up as time goes on.
When we look at the communication piece, from the school, the push of communication out, and I'm not talking about kind of the emails and all of that, but conveying a sense of, here are the good things that are happening, here are the accomplishments that are happening. Does the school system do enough to get that good word out?
I think we need to do more and more and more.
Yeah.
And that's not saying that there's things we're not doing right. It's just we need to do it more. We need everyone to know about all of those fabulous things happening, and it needs to be consistently pushed out. Hearing from students, as much as possible, I think that makes a huge impact when students are talking about at all different age groups about what they love about their school, what they love about their experiences is really important. I know for myself, the school committee meetings where it's a student report or the peer leaders talking, like I'm smiling the whole time. It's like, this is wonderful because they're in it. They are the ones, the recipients of the education that they're receiving. So more and more and more of the positive, good stuff.
Speaking of the school committee meetings, do you attend them?
I watch them.
You watch them?
Yes.
Okay.
So if elected, I will no longer be working on particular nights.
Yes, exactly.
But I watch them.
How do you see yourself fitting in with that group, knowing that you're going to have one new person, but if it's you and Sue and then everyone else plus that new person, how do you see yourself fitting in? How do you see yourself fitting in to that board?
That's a great question. And I don't need to think about that one. I see myself as a team player and as someone who I can hear different perspectives and kind of hold them in my mind and pause and reflect on them. And my unique education background, I think I'll bring that to the table. And everyone has, a different perspective and voice and way of communicating, and I think I'll add another piece to that.
Good answer.
Why, thank you.
Very good answer. I like that. One of the areas that I'm always interested in is how do we get people like me who do not have kids in the school system involved in what's happening. The hockey team this year, oh my God, that was just getting everyone's attention. But it shouldn't take a dramatic event to get people to pay attention. How can the school committee help get more people who are not directly engaged in the school on a day-to-day basis involved and to celebrate what's happening at the school?
Yeah, so again, I think it partially goes back to messaging. How do you help people understand what's happening? But I've also been thinking lately, I love project-based learning. I think lots of people love, project-based learning. But are there ways to bring the community into the school more often? Are there partnerships, that could be taking place more often so that people, like you said, without children in the school have a relationship and get to see more of what's happening? And I mean, it's a wealth of knowledge we have around us that doesn't always get tapped into that I think could.
Yeah.
So I think that to me seems like a way that we could do that.
Last question.
Okay.
When I arrive at the polling location, there is a name, Tracy Goodwin. It's going to be right in front of me, and I got my little marker. I'm going to be at my new polling location.
That's right.
By the way,
yes.
Everyone needs to know that. Why would I be motivated? You're not in a contested race, but why would I be motivated to want to circle your name and support your candidacy?
So because I care deeply. I mean, I truly care about education, about children, about our town. I've lived here for a long time and feel connected to our town and where it goes in the future. I do think I also bring a unique skill set where my background in education and curriculum, conflict resolution, being trained as a mediator, and that I love to listen. I love to learn from people around me, regardless of whether I share a point of view. I want to learn so that I can help figure out how do we just continue on a positive path. And that's why I think you should take that marker and
circle it up.
Yes.
You recommend that?
Yes.
You sure?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Tracy, it is a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for coming in today. I wish you good luck on the race.
Thank you very much. It was great to meet you, and you made this really fun. You said it would be fun.
Well, I still have to
It's
say
fun.
goodbye to everybody on the camera, and you never know. I could rip you down.
Ooh.
You
Ooh.
never know.
Okay.
You never
I
know.
shouldn't have said that yet.
But I will not. This is Tracy Goodman and Goodwin,
Good win.
not good
Yes.
Goodmen, which I think I just said.
That's okay.
She is going to be on your ballot. Give her a consideration. Thank you, Sandwich, for being here, and I'll see you soon.